Effective listening. Sounds easy enough. These videos will explore just what effective listening is and how we can all do a better job of listening. This first video will start at ground zero. We will discuss why we should bother with learning about effective listening, and I'll introduce you to the tool that we will use to become better listeners. So let's get started. By the time you take an advanced communication course, you will have been introduced to a variety of ways that describe what happens when people communicate. In its most basic form, you have a sender who encodes a message. That message is then sent out in a variety of ways, possibly face-to-face or computer-mediated like Facebook or email or instant message, or possibly using mass media like this video. On the other end, you have a receiver who decodes the message sent to try to figure out what the sender meant. Does this sound familiar? This course, Effective Listening, is different than most advanced level communication courses in that it focuses mainly on the receiver end of the equation. Other courses focus on how the sender can communicate better, how the sender can communicate in small groups more effectively, how you can communicate in organizations, and so on. I say this because that is the way that most of us think. We focus on our communication, what we say, how we can say what we mean so that other people will listen. And there's the heart of the problem. We think so much about ourselves as communicators that we fail to spend time learning about the other side of communication, listening. When was the last time you had training on how to be a better listener? When was the last time in a relationship that you asked yourself if you were doing your best to be a great listener? So when I ask the question, why should you be a better listener? This is asking you to think about and to try to learn about a whole new area of communication. The simple answer to why should we learn how to be better listeners is found by thinking about our everyday lives. Ask yourselves, how many arguments, hurt feelings, misunderstandings, and conflicts that you have experienced in the last year? Now, seriously ask yourself the question, if I had been a much better listener, would these have turned out differently? At the end of chapter 1 of Judy Brownell's book on listening, attitudes, principles, and skills, there's a questionnaire called your listening profile. I want you to fill this out and then evaluate your present listening skills using the evaluation tool that follows the profile. This gives a baseline to begin our listening journey. Let me shift gears now and introduce you to the tool that we'll be learning about that will help us to become better listeners. Brownell approaches the problem of poor listening by proposing a group of 6 interrelated skills or behaviors that we can use to evaluate our listening and improve our listening skills. This is called the HURIER approach. Each of the letters in HURIER stands for a different behavior we need to incorporate into our listening. H stands for hearing. U stands for understanding. The first R stands for remembering. The I for interpreting. The E stands for evaluation. And the second R stands for responding. It's important that responding is the last thing that we are to do in listening using the HURIER approach. For most of us, responding is usually the thing we do first. I guess we need to ask ourselves, so how's that working out for us? Each video will contain at least one test question for the final. Well, guys, here it is. I can guarantee you that I will ask you what HURIER stands for. Listening, real effective listening, is a dynamic and complex process. It does not come easy, nor does it just happen. We are not good listeners just because we have ears. Listening is a skill that we, as students of communication, have to consciously work to develop. These videos will help us and challenge us to do just that. I want you to develop into better, more effective listeners by watching these videos. It's not about getting a top grade. Listening effectively is so much bigger than a grade. I want you to have better relationships with the people around you because you have learned how to be a better listener. See you in the next video. Listen, you can do it.